Hi, I'm Jan.
And I'm Paul.
And welcome to the
Shadowcast.
Shadowcast.
Yeah, another episode. Cool.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. Salute. Salute.
We like to have a good time.
Yeah.
While discussing sometimes serious and pertinent topics.
Oh, very serious today.
And I have my glasses on, so you know I'm getting serious here.
You're getting ready to get it on. Big topic today, right? Why don't you lead it in?
So my topic is, who is this JD Vance guy that Trump has tapped, as they say, as his vice president choice?
And I imagine that you're going to expound on how much he cares for the American public.
Of course. Well, that's prerequisite, right?
Yeah, boy. So cool. Sounds good.
So in general, this guy's a millennial. He's 39 years old. He's a business entrepreneur. He's part of what they call the New Right movement. They're talking about him as a political outsider and that he's anti-establishment, just like they said about Trump.
Yeah.
He's called the young Abraham Lincoln. Is it just because he has a beard and he's the first vice president with a beard since the Hoover administration?
He's just so fucking honest.
So honest.
It's like you just imagine some writers sitting around going, what are we going to call this guy? And we got to come up with something that makes him like seem like he needs to be the guy who's going to get us all the white alienated male vote. Well, how are we going to do that? And
the common people in the middle class. So what's he for? He's against, well, now I say against, he's against open borders. He's for the forgotten middle class. He's the voice of the Rust Belt. He's going to reduce unnecessary spending and inflation. He's going to boost domestic oil production. He's going to combat the opioid epidemic.
Wow.
He's a good debater. He's a Marine veteran of the Iraq War. He's going to limit foreign aid. And he's a friend of Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh.
They both went to Yale.
And who is that?
And watched football games together or something. Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yeah.
Was one of the vice presidential candidates. Oh,
Jesus, that guy. Blocked his mind, blocked him out from his little fucking attitude.
So, criticisms of him. People think he's a racist.
I thought that was the criticism list.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. So, they're wondering, is he a racist because he is for the open, or he's for closed borders?
Deep thoughts.
So some of this stuff, he's not very popular because he opposes same-sex marriage. His stance is against abortion. Now, I've heard several different variations of this. At first, it seemed he was against all abortion, even in cases of rape and the mother's life at risk.
Then let that girl die, because ain't nobody gonna abort a baby in Tennessee.
So he seems to have amended that a little bit. So now the latest that I've heard is he's against abortion past 4 months, actually past 3.75 months, whatever that's about. Okay. But I saw a thing that pill that Big Pharma produces called mifepristone. He's all right with that. So that's kind of crazy. He had a. They're saying that that they're quoting him that rape is inconvenient. That's not exactly how he said it. I saw the clip.
Well, I suppose it is. I mean, rape's pretty inconvenient. I wouldn't say anybody categorizes it as.
He was basically saying that even if it's inconvenient for the mother to not have an abortion.
Oh, God.
It's you need to let the baby live and bring it to term and all that kind of stuff. So
then once the baby's born, if you can't afford a house, they'll put it in fucking childcare while you go to jail for being homeless, right?
Well, you're assuming people watched that other video, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know.
We don't know that. And then his views on the 2020 election results, he wouldn't have certified those results. So
of course.
People don't like that. And also he's inexperienced. He's only been in the Senate 2 years. No other political experience before that.
Yeah. Oh, another outsider.
So he's one of the youngest. He's one of the youngest VPs in American history. Nobody ever mentioned there's another one. John C. Breckinridge, back in 1857, was 36 years old.
1857.
Yeah.
But does I don't know.
And this
Maybe
guy's
I'm
39.
just like so jaded. But does anybody even have a slightest fucking idea? I guess millions of people are gonna vote for this dipshit, right? And they believe this, and they think, oh yeah, he's an outsider.
He's a young Abraham Lincoln.
He's a young Abraham Lincoln.
Grew up in Kentucky, then moved to Middletown, Ohio. Went to Ohio State University. Graduated in 2 years, summa cum laude, with a double major. I don't know what the other one was. One of them was philosophy?
I mean, yeah, okay, good. So he's smart. You know,
married an immigrant. You know, they're marketing him as like the American dream. So here's this guy that grew up as a hillbilly, then found a way to go to Yale and pay for it, and then became an entrepreneur, and now he's vice president of the United States. That quote is the American dream.
Hey, yeah, just in case anybody has thought that the American dream was just a make-believe construct meant to just make us work every day. Here he comes. No, it's real, everybody. Look, every day. I know you were doubting it.
Look, the USA works.
Yeah, see?
Again.
See, it's still...
Once in a while.
There he is. There he is.
But when you hear about the millions of dollars that people have to raise to run for
men north
president
of
or
Richmond.
even vice president or senator, then yeah. Okay, so he wrote a book in 2016 called Hillbilly Elegy. And then in 2020, that was just 3 years after he graduated from Yale.
What a smart young man.
Yeah. And then in 2020, they made a Netflix movie, and it's number 4 on Netflix right now.
How about that for timing?
Directed by Ron Howard.
Fuck you, Ron Howard.
Okay, so what does elegy mean? Hillbilly elegy. I had to look that up. I'm not as smart as him. It's a Greek word meaning the song of mourning.
An elegy.
Mourning, like death kind of mourning. And I have a couple of comments. I think he needs to change his eyeliner. I think black isn't working for him. I think he needs to change to brown. But you guys tell me in the comments what you think.
Well, let's watch. Let's see him.
And the other one thing, I think he needs to learn where his heart is. So I watched his video at the Republican National Convention. And so I think his advisor, handler, whatever you want to call him, kept telling him, that, people get, I don't know, people are, swayed emotionally if you, hold your heart and act like that really touched you. So he did it a lot of times, but it wasn't where his heart is, not like kind of here and a little bit to the left. It was more like he was holding his stomach. He kept putting it on his stomach.
He's thinking to himself,
so he's like,
sick.
I'm a father, I did all this stuff and the American dream worked for me, but but all my accomplishments, it's the father of 3 kids and he's holding his stomach. So yeah. I don't know. That didn't work for me.
Horse shit.
Okay. So
and we're going to buy it. Everybody's going to believe this is our next great hope.
First clip.
Vance shot to fame as the author of Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir about his upbringing in a poor, hard-hit part of Ohio. He then enlisted in the Marines, went to Yale Law School and to venture capital, and then to the Senate, his first role in government. On the major issues, Vance has said he would support a national ban on abortion after 15 weeks, but is for exceptions, including for rape and the life of the mother. On immigration, Vance has called for finishing Trump's southern border wall. And on the issue of the 2020 presidential election, then Senate candidate Vance suggested he would have supported fraudulent slates of pro-Trump electors.
If I had been vice president, I would have told the states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and so many others that we needed to have multiple slates of electors, and I think the U.S. Congress should have fought over it from there.
Well, I mean, something. I'm probably the worst person to give commentary whenever I see
probably
some dickhead that just shows up and he's like getting touted like, golly, I'm a good old boy. I made good. Look at me. I came from the South and I was a hillbilly and my grandma set fire to my grandpa with the moonshine.
Wait a minute. That's a spoiler alert.
Oh. Fucking bullshit. Right? It's like, give me a break.
But he's Abraham Lincoln because anybody can be president in the United States.
And he got rich and he didn't sell his soul to the devil or Peter Theil. Oh.
Right. Another spoiler alert. I shouldn't have told you what I was talking about. Well, but he's against Google. Let's watch that one.
Oh, well, there's the one saving.
Effectively control the flow of information in our society now. You cannot speak your mind as a conservative without fear of getting censored by Facebook, Twitter, Apple, whoever else. Well, if you try to do something, when I say we should be doing something about big tech, breaking up their monopolies, making their business model, which effectively just allows them to steal data from us, making that business model illegal or unacceptable, what people always say is, well, these are private companies, we can't do anything about them. Well, first of all, that's total BS. They're not private companies. They've been given special privileges by the government for decades. And on the other hand, what do we care more about? The interests of multinational companies that hate this country or the First Amendment? I
care about the First Amendment.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was like a rhetorical question, right? Because the answer to that is they care more about multinational companies that give them millions of dollars and they don't give a fuck about you. But of course, they don't want to tell you that because they're afraid that maybe you do something. So they put a sign over the top of the entrance that says "Work makes free," and then everybody just fucking lines up and just starts working. So I think, yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. He's running with Trump. Does anybody think that Trump is not the Wall Street president? I mean, look at the last time he was elected. Everybody was talking about how it was going to be fucking chaos and like nobody could believe that this guy got elected and how terrible it was, and the fucking stock market jumped up, right? Because everybody in business was like, woohoo, man, we got our fucking boy in the White House now. We're gonna make some money. But how to get there? Telling you, I'm a guy just like you. I'm just a regular guy, and I'm just here to help America and pro everybody, but whatever the Democrats are against.
Anti-establishment, political outsider. It's
Bullshit.
The same thing. Now, we might have some Trump supporters here.
Yeah, sure. Probably some Democrat supporters. I mean, and you are a believer, at least last I knew.
I don't like the choices that we're given. I mean, if it was Biden or Trump, absolutely I'd choose Trump over Biden, but I don't like that we don't get good full choices here, and part of it is how much money it costs to run for election. So we're going to see this in these next clips that I'm going to show you. So I'm poking a bit of a hole into the marketing campaign of this guy being a rags to riches story, and show you he's been around big money for it. He's 39 years old, so half of his life he's been around giant amounts of money and very well connected people.
Even an issue is he started working in venture capital, and he's got a lot of connections. It's worth knowing this. He worked in venture capital with the co-founder of AOL. He argues that, and this is sort of the criticism, right? He argues that he came from like the white folk, but then in fairness, went to Yale Law, somebody had to pay for that, worked at venture capital firms, then eventually started his own venture capital firm, receiving checks ranging from $5 to $10 million. This is a very well-connected person. When he entered the Senate race, he didn't come from nowhere. Peter Theil donated over $10 million to the Protect Ohio Values super PAC to support JD Vance for running for office.
Well, so how you like them apples? I mean, isn't this just typical? I mean, aren't we just dealing with just another? Isn't this what they did with Obama?
I have a bachelor's in business administration, and I focused on marketing, and so I pay attention when I see how things are marketed, and people are definitely marketed. And
of course, they're a product, right? They're meant to shape your vote.
So this guy is the rags to riches, American dream, Abraham Lincoln, young millennial, instead of these old white guys that are all used up and blah, blah, blah,
and
blah.
because Peter Thiel gives $10 million to fucking everybody, right? No, he doesn't.
No.
He gives $10 million to people that are advancing his agenda. And
he worked with Eric Schmidt? Yeah, Eric Schmidt of Google. So even though he came out in that thing against Google, maybe that's true. Maybe he worked for him and he saw the things that are wrong and now he's going to go against him. Or maybe these are the people that are backing him.
That's
we
likely.
have to look at this with a discerning eye.
Well, because it's always the same. It doesn't matter whether you're voting for Donald Trump or whether you're voting for Joe Biden's replacement, whoever that's going to be. The same. You're voting for the same bunch of billionaires to keep getting richer. Meanwhile,
the same bunch of
start
billionaires who
focusing
have
on-
every pony in the race.
Yeah, they've got every pony in the race. We got Al Capone, and he says, "You guys gets to choose between my two henchmen. So make a decision. All right? God bless America. God bless your voting, you motherfuckers.
Thank God you have options.
Yeah. And then be happy we don't kill you."
Okay, let's look at another clip.
Capital with the backing of Mark Andreessen Horowitz, one of the most famous, maybe the most famous venture capitalist in the world, Eric Schmidt, who was the former CEO of Google, and Peter Thiel, and raised $93 million for that. Before that, when he was working at the AOL co-founder venture capital firm, he worked with $150 million, and then this was in 2020, was able to raise another $150 million in October of 2020. So, he was a managing partner over there. He's been around a lot of money.
Well, I think that guy says it all.
And not only that, Mitch McConnell gave him $40 million. So there's two parts to that statement. $40 million is a lot of money. And where the fuck did Mitch McConnell get $40 million? You know, you go into Congress, you go in to be a senator or whatever, and these guys make so much money. Where's it coming from?
Oh, I'm sure it's all completely corrupt. I mean, they all look out for themselves, right? So.
And they got the stock tips, they make
Well, they've got the Supreme Court now. I mean, they've already been protecting. How many years has it been since federal court judges have been allowed to own stocks inside so-called black pools that any fool that can do a Google search can find out what those black pools consist of?
Stocks in companies that they do the regulations on.
Yeah, it's horseshit. It's all horseshit.
Yeah, and then not to mention bribes and trips and
and Swiss bank accounts. Well,
okay, so been around big money half his life, important connections. His wife also, he met his wife at Yale. She seems like a nice lady, but I think she's like Indian or something. She's an immigrant. They have 3 kids together. But she clerked for Chief Justice Roberts. So she's got connections
coincidences.
too.
How? What just luck? What simple luck?
Exactly. Coincidence, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, does anybody, it'd be interesting. Hey, can we do the poll of the episode and ask, does anybody think that's a coincidence? That the 2 incredibly well-connected people, supposedly from nowhere.
Right.
She's an immigrant. He's a hillbilly. And she clerks for a fucking Supreme Court justice.
And does that mean that every hillbilly and immigrant has the same chance as them to be the vice president of the United States?
Runs a investment firm and sucks billionaire dick. Wait a minute. I don't know that. I don't know that.
Do we have to bleep that?
I'm not sure he sucks billionaire's dick, but I think there's at least some
He
chance.
was talking metaphorically.
Yeah, metaphorical billionaire dick. But
I'll drink to that.
yeah. Here's to you, JD Vance and Peter Theil's dick.
Okay, next topic.
Oh.
So
He's quite a guy so far.
In this,
Quite a guy.
yeah. Well, so in this book that he wrote, and hence the very popular Netflix movie, he talks about all the horrible things he went through as a kid. His mom was a drug addict, and all this sort of thing. So there was a really interesting interview by Megyn Kelly. This actually was 2020 or something. It was an older video where she interviewed him, but there's a new one that just a day ago that she talked about this video. But anyway, she asked all these questions about his childhood. She goes, and he had answered yes to every one of these questions. Have you ever been sworn at, insulted, humiliated by your parents? Check. Pushed, grabbed, something thrown at you? Check. Parents separated or divorced? Check. Living with alcoholics and drug users? Check. Living with someone depressed or attempted suicide? Check. Watched loved ones being physically abused? Check. And then the mother threatened to crash the car with him in it and was driving at, really high speeds and wanted to kill them both. So he's got some trauma. And Megan asked his sister, do you think he's dealt with this trauma? Do you think he's healed from this trauma? And the sister's like, no, I don't really think so. And even JD said, well, I'm dealing with it day by day. And,
Oh, good. Well, let's put some
rush.
nuclear codes in his hands if something happens to Trump. Sounds like a good plan.
I do sympathize and empathize with people who've gone through a lot of trauma. We've all had our trauma. I've had mine. I know you've had yours as well, Paul.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But I'm all about, I wouldn't date somebody who wasn't healed from these things. And do I want him as my vice president or potentially the president?
Yeah.
Not really.
Well, I think that's a great question and well stated, which is we do seem to have greater criteria for people that we date than
Then who's going to run our country?
the people that could potentially wipe out life as we know it. Right?
And actually, I'm not calling him this, but actually, so many people who want to run the world these days, whether they're in the World Economic Forum or they're heads of countries or they're head of the military or the CIA or whatever, are at least sociopaths, if not psychopaths.
Yeah, well, to be short,
That seems to be who rises to the cream of the top of
No, I think you got it reversed. I think they are the ones who sink to the very bottom. Right? They sink.
Well, they're at the bottom of society, but they're the ones that are running.
Yeah, and
even in business, even in the corporate world, I didn't rise in the corporate world because I wasn't willing to lie and cheat and have me be on call all weekend and do their bidding.
Yeah.
It was like being in the military.
Well, because it's not rising, it's sinking.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to conceal.
But they hold the top positions is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they really are the bottom positions, right? Because they're bottom feeders.
You're just nitpicking.
No, but I'm saying that we have this idea, our whole structure, our whole society, if I could digress for a minute, right, is based on this sort of bullshit. I found I look at something I've struggled with myself. I can remember one time taking a drive in between Wellsville, New York, and Corny, and there was this guy had a house. It was a trailer, old rundown trailer, and the trailer. Well, it gets cold, man. It's cold there. So the guy decides he's going to put wood, when they go to a lumber yard and they'll take a whole tree and then they'll cut it into a square and you're left with this little sort of worthless piece at the edges that's sort of like a sliver of a moon shape, And he took those and he sided his trailer with it. And,
cool.
And so the first time I saw it, I caught myself mentally judging him, and I thought, oh, look at me judging this guy for his house, and so
for being inventive and using resources wisely.
No, me, I was like, you fucking hillbilly, something like that. So I went home and I sort of caught myself thinking that, and I thought, I'm going to really challenge the thoughts, and I started looking at beautiful homes in the area, and I took the prices and I looked at this guy's place and I got his value off of the county website and I calculated how much money would be required to keep this place in great condition for the next 30 years. In its condition, not great condition, but in its condition, with the house and then this guy with the siding. And I took that with some numbers about how much average people were making, and I came up with the reality of the situation, which was this guy with his trailer, with his wood siding, could make in 2 years everything that house needed for the next 30 years of taxes and maintenance and upkeep, while the beautiful home in town, that same person, which I know maybe isn't exactly a fair analysis, you were working the same job, would have to work for 22 years in order to pay for it.
Only you would do those calculations.
But yeah, that's probably true. But the point of it is that imagine that we hold in society people with money and that work their asses off and that are exploiting. Like all they do is work, right? They have no loyal life. They just are always working, and they're obsessed with becoming billionaires and doing the bidding for other even wealthier people. That they're trading 20 years of their life for this,
right?
And somehow we think, you didn't spend 10 minutes with your children.
Got to look at your priorities in life, man.
And we hold them up like they're somehow we should emulate them. It's ridiculous garbage.
So do you want to hear about Mama?
Yeah, let's do. Come on, let's hear some.
So one of the
true
one of
stories.
the things that people like is that he called his grandma Mama and his grandpa Papa, and apparently that's pretty common in the in the rural South or whatever.
Because he's Kentucky, right?
So here are the top things you need to know about JD Vance's Mama. She was a gun-toting mama. When she died, there were 19 loaded guns in the house, even one in the silverware drawer.
Wow, even kept them loaded. Not just
Loaded.
guns.
Yeah.
Loaded guns.
Well, she always had guns, but apparently when she got like old and sick, she kind of felt like she needed to have them everywhere. But at the RNC speech that JD Vance gave, everybody, when he said this fact, everybody was like, Mama, Mama, Mama. And then he talked a little bit more about guns, and everybody was like, USA, USA. So you're not going to see that at the Democratic
sounds
National
like Donald
Convention.
Trump's new WWF contestant. Jesus.
She was quoted as saying, because he went to live with her when Mom got taken away to jail and was using heroin and whatever. She said, if anyone has a problem with you staying with me, they can talk to my gun.
Well,
She loved the Lord, but her favorite word was the F word. She set her husband on fire because he was drunk, but later they made up and stayed together the rest of their lives.
nice. Because as long as the domestic abuse is woman against man, it's funny. But if it's man against woman, imagine if the story was Papa set grandma on fire because she was drunk.
Yeah.
Everybody'd say,
Yeah, you're
your
right.
Papa's a dirty, evil bastard.
Right.
But oh well, we can crack up about it because we all fucking love a good domestic violence story where the woman beats the man, right? Yeah, it's great.
Man.
Nice.
Her famous insult from the movie, she raised her middle finger and said, perch and swivel.
Well, maybe she was into that kind of shit.
But she's 10 years clean and sober. No, actually, that's his mom. 10 years clean and sober.
No longer on the heroin.
But anyway, colorful characters in his family.
Sounds like your average American family then.
Top things to know about Papa. His nickname for JD was Shithead.
It's nice. Nice term of endearment.
But he taught him how to give and take a punch.
What is this, like a fucking copy of The Boy Named Sue, right? Like, it sounds like we're listening to... sounds like we're listening to a Johnny Cash song.
Top things to know about his family. His family threatened to cut off his ear. His family has stabbed and shot various transgressors. And, this is worldwide though, it's a sin to insult someone's mother and it's punishable by grave bodily injury.
Oh, well, I will refrain from trying to insult his mother just to try to get it. I'll refrain.
Okay, last segment.
But that's all, but let's just focus before we carry on.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what your view is on this, but to me, it sounds like a really well-written script. Like, if you could just imagine
It's so colorful as to be a little suspicious.
Give me a fucking break, right? With the grandmother sets the grandfather on fire.
It's in the movie.
Oh, it's gotta be true.
Must be true.
But like, and then he's getting $10 million from Peter Theil. But let's not talk about the Peter Theil part. I didn't hear every fact that got shared was about his good old boy roots back in Kentucky when they used to have to go out and skin possums to have some dinner that night. Like, fuck you. And then you went to Yale, dude, and also...
And you had, what, $150,000 in debt, and then you go to work for these guys, and then you launch your own venture capital firm and raise tons of money, $150 million at a pop.
Because billionaires, they like to give their money to dickheads from Kentucky who skin possums and have some real domestic abuse problems. No, they give money to people who they know they're a part of and that know that their allegiance, their fiduciary duty is to them and not to the people.
You mean they can call in their markers?
Yeah, but I mean, look at it. This is just a real thing, right? Is that you have which in general I believe in, right? And like as a principle, I think fiduciary duty is a great concept on something desperately lacking here in Ecuador. I tell you that. No fiduciary duty here, but fiduciary duty as a concept means that if somebody invests in your company or your portfolio, that you are obligated to take care of them and their money above you and yours.
As if it were your own.
He's got a hedge fund that I'm sure he still has with a bunch of billionaires' money. He has a fiduciary. As of this day, he has a fiduciary duty to take care of their money.
Good point.
So we're going to think, but the call of patriotism for these next 4 years is more important to him than his lifetime accruing wealth. So instead, he's going to say, yes, Peter Theil, yes, bunch of douchebags. I know I've got billions of your money, but now I have to put the interests of the other people that I've spoken about.
My fellow hillbillies.
And heroin, and, people that have suffered through addiction, and he's covered. What I would love to do, anybody out there that's a math geek that likes to do stats, let's go through this list and find out how many percentage points of the American population he covered with addiction, with domestic abuse, with. I mean, that list goes on and on, right? There's if that's not a political speech designed to make you think.
And another part of this is that, he's from the Rust Belt where the globalization took the jobs away from the average people. And we need to bring
back.
Yeah, of course.
The fuck
him and Trump.
They're both
not going to do it
He didn't do it in the
single-handedly.
last 4 years, even though he said he was going to do it. But this time, this time he means it. This time.
Oh, you're
different,
so negative.
right? The last time, fucking the Senate, Congress, everybody stopped him. But this time, bam, he's going to stop buying his own steel from China. He's not going to buy Trump Tower steel from China anymore. He's not going to buy the wall steel from China, right? He's going to bring all them jobs back home and put them under OSHA, and then triple the price of steel for himself and all of his rich friends. That's going to happen.
So thanks for that segue, because now we're going to go into the things that he used to say about Trump, and then his reversal. Now he's pro-Trump, and then things Trump said about him. It's pretty entertaining.
Calling Trump America's Hitler. Then you kissed his ass.
Not true.
It is true. And then you kissed his ass, and then he endorsed you. And you said he's the greatest president of all time. Mitch McConnell gave you $40 million to prop up your campaign. Peter Thiel gave you $15 million. That's $55 million, JD. What do you think they want for that?
That speaks to your point. Yeah. Calling in the markers.
And JD, he'd have you believe Well, they don't want nothing at all, right? Because I'm a good old boy from the South, and I ate possum when I was a kid. So of course I'm gonna.
That's worth $55 million.
Of course I'm gonna stick to my roots. And let's ignore the 20 years that he worked for these billionaires. So
some of the other things he said about Trump was Trump is cultural heroin. He said Trump could be America's Hitler. He said he believed the woman who accused Trump of sexual assault over Trump's, view of it. He said he was a never-Trumper. He said Trump was irreprehensible. He said Trump was noxious. And he said Trump was leading the white working class to a very dark place. Now, I am okay with people reversing their opinions. In fact, the way I approach life is I have an opinion of something, I have a stance on something, I have a position on something, but I leave the door a little bit open, and then when new facts come in and new evidence comes in, then I adjust my position. And I think that's just what a open-minded person would do. So I'm okay with the idea of him changing his opinion, but it was a pretty stark reversal.
yeah, it sounds like he said really some severe things there.
So let's see.
I mean, to say he could be America's Hitler. I mean, that's like, I don't know. People say Hitler like they treat it loosely, like,
right.
But
Right.
But like, I've been.
If I was a Holocaust survivor, I'd be really insulted by that when they just throw around everybody's a Hitler or everybody's a Nazi.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen death camps in Auschwitz, and
Really?
and I've seen the United States burial grounds along the French coast, and they're profound. I mean, if you spend a little bit of time there and think about it, you realize the level of insanity that can become normalized, right? Like, you can start thinking this shit's okay, and like, but I think at the same time, like, if anything could point to the fact that here's the question I'd like to have answered. When's the last time we had a president when the rich got poorer and the poor got richer? Can somebody tell me if ever there's been a president where actually the poor benefited over the rich? Because I don't think it exists.
I'm going to guess D, never.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's D, never. So, like, why do you think after all these fucking years of this so-called democracy that now JD is going to be the guy who is going to turn things around? I mean, what are you? You're just so you're so afraid of the reality of the fact that no matter who you vote for, it doesn't fucking matter because they're both working for the same set of corporate overlords, that you don't want to deal with that fact. You don't want to deal with the reality. So you just want to keep bullshitting yourself year after year, election after election. I mean, how many elections have you fucking told yourself and convinced yourself that the next guy was the guy who was really going to change things?
Hope and change, man.
Fuck. I mean.
Okay, so this next segment is his reversal of his opinion. And there's two clips here. I want to just play them back to back.
Oh, nice.
But on the second one, when I first watched it, I had one opinion, and I watched it the second time, and I had a second opinion. On the first time I watched it, it sounded like Trump was just calling JD Vance like a bad person and liar and blah 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 blah. But I think he actually was referring to the Wall Street Journal article. So I think people ran with that. Trump's dissing his, the guy that he ends up choosing as his vice presidential pick. But I think Trump just wasn't clear. He had talked about the Wall Street Journal ad was fraudulent. And then at the end, he was talking, and it sounded like he was talking about JD, but I don't think he was. So.
Oh, interesting.
The question was, why did that change? And so the answer was, in 2021, he met Donald Trump. And I actually respected this answer. Donald Trump told JD Vance how some generals were basically manipulating the timing of troop redeployments in the Middle East so that they could tell Trump, oh, troop levels are coming down and we're still succeeding, when they were really just manipulating the timing of when and where troops were. So at the time of any given count, it seemed like there were fewer troops in an area. Donald Trump was really frustrated by this, and this account was later verified by James Jeffrey, an envoy to Syria, which suggested these shell games were always played with Washington, and I believe that, because politics is like about gamesmanship, and I think a lot of folks in like the military get frustrated by, Washington and having to wait for permission to do what they want to do, right?
I criticized Trump back in 2016, and I'd ask folks not to judge me based on what I said in 2016, because I've been very open about the fact that I did say those critical things. And I regret them, and I regret being wrong about the guy. I think that he was a good president.
Well, I mean,
it doesn't explain everything, does it?
What's he going to say? What are you going to say?
Okay, so I want to end with the things that Trump has said about JD.
And then the New York Times did a fake story today, big front page, that JD wasn't sure if he wanted my support. JD is kissing my ass. He wants my support. I'm 18 points up. If I was 18 points down, he wouldn't want my support. I'll tell you, Jim Jordan wants my support, and he's doing just fine, right? No, these are fake people. These are dishonest. These are very dishonest people.
Okay, so this is the one I was referring to.
The
Washington Post, well, let's listen to it again.
Yeah.
So he's talking about the Washington Post article that says that JD doesn't want his support. And Trump is saying, yes, he does want my support. He's groveling for my support. These people, I think he's talking about the Washington Post, are dishonest. I don't think he's talking about JD.
Oh, I see. I get the context.
But you see how it was spun by the other side.
Let's watch it again.
And then the New York Times did a fake story today, big front page, that JD wasn't sure if he wanted my support. JD is kissing my ass. He wants my support. I'm 18 points up. If I was 18 points down, he wouldn't want my support. I'll tell you, Jim Jordan wants my support, and he's doing just fine, right? No, these are fake people. These are dishonest. These are very dishonest people.
I can see how he's talking about the newspaper, but
yeah, I think
he's
talking about the New
still
York Times.
talking about JD. Like, yeah, he's
groveling.
kissing my ass for my
kissing
support.
my ass. Okay,
but
so
that's how Trump is. I mean,
yeah, but
nobody
this
expects
last
him.
one he's talking about kissing my ass. This is really funny, actually. Trump can be pretty funny sometimes.
Lawyer and a brilliant mind who will make Ohio proud. This is a great person who I've really gotten to know. Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love. Remember I said that about Kim Jong-un? He fell in love, and they said, oh, Trump is saying he fell in love. Actually, he did, if you want to know the truth.
Oh, yeah. Well, there we go. I mean, war is peace, up is down.
Yeah.
Left is right.
So anyway, I hope that gave people like bird's eye view of who is this JD Vance guy that nobody knew of, that just kind of came out of the blue.
But you know what I would like to do?
Seemingly.
If I can just grab the soapbox for a minute.
Of course.
And say that until we are clear as a nation that you cannot allow billionaires to buy elections.
Yes.
And that there has to be protections like there are in New Zealand and like there are in Ireland that demand that you don't spend more money than the other candidates, and that demand that you show up on a debate stage and debate fucking everyone that's got some minimum amount of signatures required, and that all people are valid candidates. Until that happens, I mean, here we are. We're always going to be here, which is...
And real questions, not soft questions.
Right. And look, I said this to somebody just in a regular conversation, and I wasn't when I said it, I said, they spent $1 billion on each side in the 2020 election for getting the president. $2 billion got spent. And
Obscene.
And I thought, man, you know what? I'm not really sure that's right. So I went and checked. And here I am again. So I'm going to have to go again and check. But I'm pretty sure that the actual number turned out to be $6 billion that got spent just in the 2020 election. Like, if
Abraham Lincoln can't afford that.
Right. And like, how many people out here listening to this? I know people who are far more qualified to be president than anyone that we've seen. I know people who actually are intelligent and didn't buy their way into the position.
I'd vote for you.
Oh, yeah, you would. Probably that's it. My one vote. I'll run for the Green Party.
We'll have more votes on our YouTube channel than you'll have for president.
Vote for Paul for Green Party president. So, I think until we've gotten to the place where people actually get to have their ideas heard and that everybody has an equal chance to be president, not just people who managed to raise $100 billion, right? Like,
not just the people that are kissing ass.
If I could just ask you to just do one thing, just to rearrange one thing in your brain, right? And in terms of how you look at these things, stop saying to yourself, do they owe somebody? Like we just watched in those clips and he says, that's $55 million. What do you think they want for that? We have this ingrained in us because these assholes say it all the time, which is like, they owe them something. They donated millions of dollars and now they owe. No, man, no. Stop saying that and start saying they put their own guy in office with that money. They don't owe them anything. They work for them. They work for those fucking guys. They are not working for you. They never were working for you. Before they ever ran for political office, they were fucking touched on the shoulder and told what their script was and told what was going to come. And then they play their part. And then they do the whole thing. My grandpappy. And isn't this funny? Listen to this story. My grandma lit my grandfather on fire. Can you believe this shit we got up to in the back country of Kentucky? God damn, I'm just a
That's why I'm qualified to be your next vice president.
I'm just like you, motherfucker. Except for the fact that he took $10 million from Peter Theil and ran a fucking hedge fund and all the other dirty shit that we don't know about.
But in 2020, he's running for Senate. He raised $150 million twice in that same year.
Now look,
he's connected.
As long as it takes $150 million to become a senator, you can bet your fucking ass that we're not going to have a democracy. There is no democracy. It's an illusion of a democracy where really fucking rich people decide who they're going to put a lot of fucking money behind, and then you get to choose between the two.
And we're right back to where we started. Yeah. Taxation without representation. The average person does not have representation. They're promising representation.
Over and over. How many years have you heard somebody promise you things that never got delivered?
Right.
How many elections have you lived through? Look, I can understand if you're just, wet behind the ears, as they say, and this is your second election and you still believe. But for the rest of you guys, how many elections have you watched? Right. How many times have you been promised some shit that doesn't come true? When are you going to say enough? And, I think the answer to that, though, if I could just answer my own question, is a fucking lot of you, because you stopped voting, right?
Yeah.
Right now.
Or, don't feel like there's anybody worth voting for.
Is that right? 40%?
No, people aren't voting because it's too hard to get a driver's license and it's too hard to get down to the polls.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's right. We got to do another episode of that shit. So, thank you, Jan. That was educational, man. Really, really enjoyed that one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We hope you did too. Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, would it kill you? Come on. That's it. What,
It
you
helps a
gotta
lot.
just lean
You know,
forward?
YouTube has algorithms, and they search for certain
Jesus.
things, and the more subscribers we have, and the more likes, and things,
Jehovah.
the more
Muhammad.
people get to see us.
Yeah. Cool.
Cheers. Till next time.
Bye.
Ciao.